Happening right now in Washington. Here is a live look for you at Capitol Hill, where the House is in session, debating whether or not to impeach President Donald Trump following last week's violence at the Capitol. Streets are blocked off and armed soldiers are on guard. And here's another live look for you. You're looking right here at the House floor, where voting is wrapping up in the House. The Democratic-controlled House is expected to impeach President Donald Trump for inciting his supporters who stormed the Capitol 1 week ago today. Now, if the vote passes, President Trump would be the first president in history to be impeached twice. This morning, Georgia lawmakers are making their case on the matter, including Republican Representative Buddy Carter, who says he does not support impeachment.
This is very serious and concerning effort during such a tense and fragile time in our country. I urge my colleagues to consider how this will further entrench people during such a tense time.
If these actions are not worthy of impeachment, then what is an impeachable offense?
Now, if the measure passes, it will move on to the Senate for a trial. And of course, you can find more on the House impeachment proceedings on 11alive.com and the 11 Alive YouTube page.